Brian just told you you can accelerate. I'm here to tell you why you can't. What I want to talk about is behind the code, right? And how AI development will reshape your entire organization. But I want to start with one thing. So I'm Luca. I'm the head of DevOps and platform engineering in Nearform, and I was a skeptic. Any other skeptic in the room? 1, 2, 3. Okay, all the others are believers. So I was a skeptic. We started using AI in Nearform a long time ago. I would say 3 years plus right now. And until last year, I didn't believe in it. I mean, I was using it. I was doing my best. Obviously, there was a mandate in the organization. They were repeating me that we had to use it, and I wanted to use it. I wanted to believe in it. I had installed the chat front end in my home server in 2022, start of 2022. I was writing best stories for my kids. It was working for that, right? I had nice chat with it. It was replying back. It was credible. But when it was about producing code, it wasn't there. I mean, yes, you could do easy stuff. Vibe coding was a thing. People were building applications. But the code didn't look nice to me, right? It was too verbose. There was too much code, lots of errors. It wasn't like my code. By the way, I'm not a coder anymore, right? It wasn't like my code probably, 5 years ago. And my code wasn't that good. So the AI was producing worse code than me. But then something has changed. And the date is there, right? If you look at the date, it's October 2025. Anyone knows what happened in October 2025? No? What? August? It was before August. So in October 2025, something has changed. And it was when Claude introduced Sonnet 4.5. And in fact, Sonnet 4.5 was introduced in September, but I didn't have time to test it in September. I was busy having calls to clients and other stuff. So I had to wait for October. And it was the 4th of October. I won't forget because that's when I became a believer, right? It wasn't just Sonnet 4.5. It was also Spec-Driven Development. Anyone ever heard about Spec-Driven Development? Okay. So at that time, Sonnet 4.5 was already good, but it wasn't there for me. But when coupled with Spec-Driven Development, and we can talk about Spec-Driven Development later on if you want, that changed everything. Right? I went from, the code is not nice to, wow, this thing is actually creating value, right? It's actually returning value to me. It wasn't just about the code per se, right? The code was looking better, but it was able to go further, right? Better code, better results, build the whole product, follow the instructions better. And again, it wasn't the combination just of this thing, right? It was a combination of multiple factors. And as Brian said, same slide pretty much, right? It was around that time, to be fair, it was later on when Opus came out, that people started realizing that things were changing, right? And you can see that even Ray Carpati started to say, okay, this thing is working, right? And when I combine those things, I can get 10x. And people started to say, okay, Opus 4.5 is the real deal, right? And it wasn't just one person, right? We had DHH, controversial person, whatever, right? But still, he writes a lot of code. And he moved from, you can see this, right? This is neat to done. I can actually use this. So people started realizing that those models were getting better. It wasn't just gimmick anymore. It wasn't hype anymore. They were actually producing value. Again, more people. Some people went as far as calling this thing AGI. I don't think it's AGI, right? Someone thinks it's AGI. Okay, so we agree. And even Guglielmo, that is a founder, right, of Resell, started to say, okay, this thing actually produce stuff, right? We can give him a task and get something out on the other side. And that thing works. So again, a lot of excitement. This was between December and January. And people started to say, this is because people were off, so they finally had time to test it. You remember what I said? I didn't have time in September, I had time in October. So lots of people were actually so busy that they couldn't test those things. When they had the time, instead of staying with their kids at home, they started playing with those things, and they started to learn that those things work. Now, is it true? Is it all true that everything works, is great, we can deliver faster? Is it? So we have seen something similar, and again, we didn't agree before this, right? We applied this to a real project in Nearform, and this is the result. Who doesn't like a good math formula? I come up on this today on the spot, right? So But what he says is that given a time, if you apply an accelerator, and in this case, it's 3 accelerators, right? It's a senior engineer, spec-driven development, and a model, right? You can get 3 times faster. And we have seen this. We moved from a project, and it was a task in the project, a sub-task in the project that was running for 2 years, that was estimated to be between 5 and 6 months, and we were able to deliver that in 8 weeks. So I just told you that you can't accelerate at the start, but then I'm showing you that you can actually do it, that we did it. Now, where is the catch? So the catch is that this project was the ideal project to apply AI at, right? So this was a project that was running for 2 years. We had senior engineers in the project that knew the whole project, the code inside out. They were already planning to do this feature. So they had already stories, they had already design, they had already everything ready to start. And the only thing that we had to apply is spec-driven development on something that was clear. The scope was clear, everything was clear, right? It was just about writing the code. And we know that the models are good at writing the code, don't we? So obviously, prepare is possible. Now, are we now shipping more then? Is this the reality? What Brian told us that it's true, right? I do believe that for Brian it's true. I don't believe that for everyone this is true, right? I don't believe that's the full story. We're not shipping more. We're not going to ship more, okay? So let's see why. Let's do a reality check. Do we know why we're not shipping more? Anyone wants to guess? The scope is not perfectly clear. Yes, that's one thing, for sure. Anyone else?
Too hard to get things into production.
Yeah, too hard to ship to production.
Working on the wrong thing.
Working on the wrong thing. Yeah, all those things are true, right? To me, it's a little bit simple. I mean, I'll put it in a simpler way, right? Do you know what the software development life cycle is? Now, this is one of the pictures. You will see that there are many pictures online, right? There are so many things in the software development life cycle, and we're solving for 1, 2 max, right? Right now, we're solving for 4 and maybe 5, a little bit of 5. Do we all agree that we're solving for 4 and 5? We've seen that the companies that release those products are solving for 4 and 5, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, that's what they do. They have developers, they're dog-fooding their solution, and they're building for that problem. They're building to ship the code, to build faster, right? To write code faster. So that's faster. But who is thinking about the rest of the circle there? We're not moving at the same speed. We definitely accelerated one part, but that's not the full story. And that's why I don't believe that everyone can actually accelerate. That's why I don't believe that everyone can go 3, 4, 5 times faster. Okay? And the next part of the talk is going to be about this. Right? It's not enough to say we're moving faster on the development side when the rest of the organization is out of sync. So let's create alignment. Right? Let's look at the rest of the organization. Let's see what we can do. Those are not my ideas. Those are something that you can find online. Right? I'm just summarizing some of those with you and sharing some of our experiences in Nearform. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to see, if you didn't watch it, there is a nice podcast that was released recently from Catherine Wu, the head of product at Cloud Code. So who's better than them, right, to tell us what to do? And they're saying that they are actually reduced their product development from 6 months to 1 month, sometime a week, sometimes 1 day. Now, I'm not sure that she wanted to say from 6 months to 1 day. Probably that wasn't the message, but I mean. So the problem, the caveat is on the second part, right? They also changed what they're shipping. They're not shipping products anymore. They're shipping research previews, experiments. Brian, I think you say that Claude is not always stable, right? Where's Brian? There you go. So this may be the reason. They definitely ship faster, right? Everyone is praising Claude, Anthropic because they're shipping a lot. Doesn't mean that they're shipping a lot of quality. Yeah? And the other thing is that they're asking their engineers. They have launch rooms where they actually ask their engineers to say, okay, we have something to release. So the engineers decide when to release, and they're happy for the marketing to pick that up, right, and create marketing material for that. That works. They're building development tools. Obviously, for them, it's okay, right? If an engineer that is a developer is building a developer tool, they're going to try it. They know what the problem is, problem statement. They understand the system, so they can release it. It's not going to work for everyone. And then she also said that PM role is shifting from coordinating multi-month roadmaps to enabling everyone to ship faster. Again, ship what? Experiments. How does it work? Now, the other thing that was discussed, and this is something that we believe is true instead, is that the boundaries are blurring. Okay? Boundaries between PMs, designers, and developers are blurring. Although even here, right, there is a catch. They say that they are looking for people that can do everything, right? And they want to hire them. How many people do we know that can do everything? And that can do everything well, right? How many people do we know that are PMs, designers, and developers all in one? Maybe for Anthropic is fine. They're paying what? $500,000 for a developer? Maybe they can find those people. Maybe there are a few people like that. Maybe there are 100, 1,000, 10,000, right? But is this the case for our organizations? I don't think so. So I don't think this approach will work. I mean, it's nice, right? You get someone in a podcast and they're going to tell you, yeah. You just need one person that can do everything. Easy. And then you can move as fast as we can move. But then, again, another caveat. Can you see the last part there? So the person in the podcast asked, okay, if everyone can ship, if everyone is a product person, what are you sacrificing? And she replied, well, a little bit of product consistency. That's fine, right? They have the same feature on both products. It's fine. They're shipping experiments. Again, not disqualifying what they're saying. I'm just saying that what they're saying doesn't apply to many companies out there, okay? I do believe what Catherine is saying. I just don't believe that qualifies for everyone. They are the exception, probably. So what we believe is that, I had a discussion with James Malone, our head of design, the other day, and we do believe that the lines are blurring, okay? We do believe that there is a switch, and this is another thing that you will find online. You will find taste now. Everyone is talking about taste, right? We do believe that we're switching from knowing what you're doing to having a little bit more taste to judge what the AI is doing. So try to be able to, if you want, qualify the output of the AI as something good, that is valuable, and especially understanding if that is good for people, if that is going to work. So taste is important, right? That's what makes a good designer a good designer. A product manager is able to describe what the person wants in technical words and so on. Taste is important, right? And then we do believe that T-shaped people, right, T-shaped builders are important. What we mean by this is that we do believe that it's important that you're very strong in what you do, but then if you can actually go a little bit beyond that in both directions, if a designer understands about PM and understands about a little bit about code, it's going to make things easier, right? You can actually move things a little bit better now that you are helped by AI. And so what we think is going to happen is that, and it's happening already for us, by the way, is that designers can move from just creating designs to building mockups and iterating faster on the product. That is something that can happen. The code for a mockup doesn't have to be production ready, right? And it works better than a mockup on Figma. If something is clickable, right? So I would be happy with the designer to go to Lovable and build something if what he wants to test is actually the user interaction. Okay? So, and James told me that the quality of a designer now is more enabling the rest of the organization to move faster and understanding what the users want. So be able to translate what the user wants into something that is then usable for developers. Bridge that gap with the help of AI. So we believe this is possible. And in fact, we are already doing it. We already have a process for this. And James has been doing this for months now. When we start engagements, we run what we call a discovery session. And in the past, I ran multiple discovery sessions and they were quite painful because you have to go there, listen to the client, that's not the painful part, take a lot of notes, right? And then summarize them, then play back to the client what you heard, right? And be sure that you remember everything correctly and you took the note. And you cannot take the notes while listening to the person, right? You want to be present. Now, All of that, right now, became so much easier for us. Because with the help of AI, what we do, we go in the room, we record the conversation. So we are present, but in the meantime, we record the conversation. We put the recording into a model, we transcribe the recording, and we get all those insight out of the conversation. And then the AI can help you in so many ways, right? It can bring back the conversation, extract snippets, and so on. And this is the process that we follow. We go from research, we use models to do the research, market research, industry research, blah, blah, blah. Then we do a working session, we record everything, as I say, we put it into a RAG. From there, we do prototyping and validation, okay? And the output of all of that is a component library, a design tokens, storybooks, working software, and specs. Not all of it, right? Sometimes it's a subsection of those. So this is possible. This is going to speed up the first part of the process. Okay? Then, once we get the sprint 0 done, it's easy. Then you get into development, right? Then you go warp speed. This part is solved, almost solved. It's so solved that there are so many tools right now that are being developed here, right? There is StoneForge, there is H2, there is Aiden, there is Paperclip, there is Archer, there is ROM Fusion, there is Multica, there is Eva, there is even OpenAI Symphony. How many of you knew about those products? Yeah, me neither. I had to search for them, right? I mean, I knew those because we are doing some research every now and then, and I just found out that there are so many products that solve the development part. Some of those promise that you can just give them the stories and they're going to automate the whole thing, right? Point them at the story, all done. Again, I don't think that's the full story. Yeah, you can develop. You can definitely give something to the AI, especially if it's driven by specifications. Spec-Driven Development, because I didn't define that yet, is when you actually take the requirements, you put it in a spec, you iterate on the spec, so you go and define clearly what you want, down to the nuts and bolts, down to snippets of code sometimes. And so you make sure that the AI is not going to go on his own way, right? You limit so much what the AI can do, so you put guardrails around the AI that is going to make it work for you. So that part is true. You can do that. You can generate code with that. But then, again, there is all the other problem. Where was there? Where is the person they asked about what is going to happen when you merge multiple pull requests? Probably is not here anymore. Whatever, right? So there is still that problem. And that's where we're going next. You produce the code. What about next? There are organizations that are set up, I believe, Brian, right? There are organizations that are set up to solve this. Ship small features, ship fast, right? Go straight to production, have quality insurance, have a lot of tests, end-to-end, blah, blah, blah. Is this every organization? No, it's not. Many organizations shouldn't have this, right? They're not set up to do this. So what is happening? In the experience that we have done, what we have seen is that we started the first 2 weeks with the spec well nicely defined, and we were probably 5 times faster. It was crazy, right? We were shipping like crazy. They were shipping, the developers. Actually, we even reduced the team. I forgot to tell you that, right? We went from 4 developers to 3 developers. And yet, the throughput was crazy good. It was too good to be true, because after 2 weeks, we had to break, right? Because the PRs were piling up. You cannot move from X to 3X and expect that the rest of the organization will keep up. We had to stop for a moment, breathe, and say, okay, how do we solve this? Because this is not working. And you either increase the size of your QA team, and it's not going to solve the problem most of the time, or you try to approach the problem in another way. So the first thing that you want to do is that now quality is everyone's responsibility. You don't drop things over the fence and say, QA, fix it for me. Okay? Although, there is a nice part of the story. That's the QA person. I had a one-to-one with her, right? And she told me, look, one thing about this was refreshing. Finally, the stories were well defined. She had the spec, right? She wasn't working anymore with stories that say, okay, as a user, I want this to be that. That's it. No, she had the full spec explaining what the story had to do, what the component was supposed to do, why it was supposed to do that, what the input was, and what the output was. So the specs are not just good for the models, specs are good for humans as well. Okay? And so what is the solution here? The solution for us was that realizing that AI is incredibly effective at writing end-to-end tests. So we asked the QA people, okay, fantastic. So we have this week, let's work, right? Let's put this to work. You told us that you didn't have time to write end-to-end in the past. Now you don't need time, right? Or at least you have the time. You just have short amount of time. You can accelerate the AI, and that proved very effective, right? We were able to increase the coverage, like I'm not saying 100%, but 90%. Right? If you try, they're very good at writing playwright tests, right? Very easy for the model. And then we clarified that manual testing wasn't dead. That is not the end, right? You don't write end-to-end tests and you're done, because models are still not good at testing certain things. And end-to-end test is not the full story. So what we wanted the engineers to focus on the QA engineers to focus on, is to understand the deep flows where it's important to clearly understand what the product does and test that everything there was working fine. And now the QA was solved, or partially solved. We're not there yet, I'll be honest, right? It's not fully solved. And then we talk about the last thing. I'm almost done. We talk about SREs. Anyone knows what the image there is? We're shipping more, right? We want to ship more. And as the people in Anthropic said, we're shipping experiments. What is going to happen when you ship faster and you ship experiments? Right? Now you have so many things piling up in production. There are no, we are sacrificing over product consistency, right? So we're shipping so many things that now in production we're going to have issues. Now, I'm pointing fingers at GitHub, right? I'm not sure GitHub story is just AI. Maybe there is something else there, right? But it was a nice example. That's why I put it on the slide. GitHub went down to 84.6 uptime. Everyone remembers when we were talking about 3, 4 nines of uptime? Yeah, that's not a problem anymore. Who cares about 9s? 8s are okay, right? 1 8 is fine. So that's the part that we still have to solve. There are many tools right now that are approaching this. Like if you look at the most famous observability tools, if you look at Datadog, if you look at Grafana, if you look at Dynatrace, all the other ones, right? You will see that they now have either models already embedded into their system, or they offer MCPs or blah, 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 right? And that is nice. We also saw some experiments of people that are shipping product that will observe the log and try to patch the system in the code, although with some so-and-so success. I've seen one where the problem was memory out of memory, right? OM, and the solution was to bump the memory. That's not really the solution. Okay, so I don't think we solved this one yet. But what I'm saying is that overall, we solved one problem. Yes, we can move faster on development. Are you working on all the other problems in your organization? Are you fixing all the stuff around development? And those are just some examples, right? Because you can look at marketing, you can look at legal. I wouldn't touch legal quite yet with AI, but you can look at that, right? There are so many more problems that we could solve, and we can solve with AI. And what I want to say is that we are the one, because I'm not the developers anymore, that now are slowing down the organization. So this is all fine, but how do we scale this? Because I've seen this working for one team, right? And I have an idea. It's half test, so don't take this as a good idea per se. It's just my idea on how to solve this. So we do what we always have done. We decompose the problem, right? Divide and conquer. So we have the design that is working with the assisted design, as I show you. That is already happening. It's fine. You can produce mockups, you can produce code, you can produce components. Then I want the PM to actually split the PRD into smaller milestones, and then we attack the single milestones. And that's where we start the process of dividing the milestones, writing the milestone PRD, and then we go into the architecture, and then we build epics and stories, and all of that is AI assisted. In Nearform, we use BMed. BMed is one of the many spec-driven development frameworks. You can use Spec-It, you can use OpenSpec. Different frameworks cover different needs, right? We found that BMed works quite well. up to now. Tomorrow it can change. We know how these things move. And then out of that, we get the stories. We start with implementation, we go super fast there, and then we repeat the loop. That's how we're thinking about the problem. Is it going to work? I don't know. I'll tell you maybe in 2 months when I see you back here. Okay? And that's it. Thank you. Great. No questions. Go on.
Yeah, I work at a company, and the guy who's leading the development team, he says, I'm the bottleneck because I have to review all the code, and everyone is terrible, and everyone makes mistakes, and like he's got such a headache because everyone's bad apparently, and I'm saying to him, but I've been hearing on the podcast that you're not supposed to look at code anymore, and if you build the harness properly, then it's supposed to take care of all of that. So where do you stand on the code quality and the architecture?
I stand in the middle. It depends. Well, I mean, it depends in which industry you're working on, right? As we say, cloud code, maybe they're okay not to look at the code. For the industry, I would say, yes, you have to look at the code, every single line of it. Now, there is so much that AI can do on the review side, but at the end of the day, and I keep repeating this to my engineers and people in my company, it's a matter of trust, right? If you trust, and responsibility. Do you trust the AI to find all the problems? And who is responsible for the code that gets shipped? You solve those problems, you solve the problem, right? If you tell me that you trust the AI to review the code, and is the responsibility of the AI is shipping the code, then sure, let the AI review the code and ship it to production. But if you believe that it's your responsibility or this person's responsibility to review the code, and if there is a bug, that person is going to be the one waking up during the night, then maybe that person is better to look at the code. And then you have the QA problem, for sure.